Well, you remember that band that B sold the Tennessee whiskey to?
The CH,
the CH, yeah.
He never would tell us who they were.
No, it was a protected secret or something.
Right.
There was a time when the world Digger Mains lived in was illuminated by nothing but firelight. It wasn't the spotlight of fame or the flashing of cameras, just the dim glow of the fire that fueled the stills in the hidden corners of the mountains. Moonshining, the craft he perfected, was something that belonged in the shadows. It was a quiet life, lived in secrecy, away from the prying eyes of the world. He wasn't looking for attention, and he certainly wasn't seeking fame. His goal was never to become a character in a television show or the subject of a reality series. The art of moonshining had always been a sacred practice, one that was best kept out of the public eye. But fate, as it often does, has a way of bringing hidden stories into the light. Mark Ramsey, a longtime friend of Digger's, was the one who would ultimately change everything. Mark had appeared on the 3rd season of Moonshiners, the Discovery Channel show that pulled back the veil on the secretive world of homemade spirits. Moonshining was a part of Digger's life, something that had been passed down through generations, and to put that life on national television, that seemed impossible. For someone like Digger, who had spent decades mastering the craft in isolation, it felt almost like breaking a sacred rule. The thought of revealing his world to millions felt wrong, even sacrilegious. But Mark didn't see it that way. Mark believed that their story was bigger than the risk of public exposure. He thought the world needed to hear the story of their craft, its skill, its rich history, and the heart that went into every drop. He believed that if they didn't tell it, someone else would. And that story might not be the one they wanted shared. Digger's initial response was no. He'd spent a lifetime learning to stay out of the limelight, to keep his business behind closed doors. He was more comfortable working in solitude, behind the stills, away from the attention of cameras. Fame was never something he had sought, but Mark didn't let it go. He was persistent, even relentless. The idea of someone else telling their story, potentially distorting it, made Digger uneasy. So, with reluctance, he agreed. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was made. When Digger first stepped in front of the cameras, he was overwhelmed with fear and doubt. The prospect of being filmed, his every movement under the scrutiny of a lens, was enough to make even the toughest man anxious. But what happened next surprised everyone, including Digger himself. The moment he appeared on screen, something about him felt different. People could sense it right away. He wasn't a character, he wasn't a performance, he wasn't an actor playing a role. He was real. In a world where everyone was constantly trying to impress, to create a persona, Digger stood out for his authenticity. His slow southern drawl, his dry humor, his deep knowledge of the land and the craft, everything about him felt grounded, true. There was no artifice. His presence on camera was the exact opposite of everything people had come to expect from reality television. He was steady, unpretentious, and genuine. And that made him magnetic. Viewers were drawn to his calm self-assurance, his quiet respect for tradition, and his unwavering focus on precision. It wasn't long before the chemistry between Digger and Mark became the heart of the show. What had started as a risky venture quickly turned into something much more profound. Moonshiners was no longer just a show about making moonshine. It became a story about friendship, trust, and hard work. The duo's dynamic was what made the show stand out. Their bond was visible in every episode, in the way they fought, laughed, and worked together. Despite their differences, they became more than just co-stars, they became brothers. The pride they shared for their craft was evident in every batch they created on camera, and that authenticity became the foundation of the show's success. Before long, Digger and Mark weren't just famous on TV, they became household names known far and wide for their work. And it wasn't just about making moonshine anymore, it was about taking that craft and making it something legal. Working with Sugarland's distilling company in Gatlinburg, they ensured that the methods they used could be practiced openly, without fear of the law. Drinks like hazelnut rum and rye apple shine, both inspired by the same fires that once burned in hidden, secretive places, now had a legal place in the world. For the first time, Digger could proudly put his name on a bottle. The things that had once been done in the shadows were now being celebrated openly. The moonshiner had become a symbol, a figure who had turned a criminal act into a respectable, recognized tradition. But fame, as it does, brought with it its own set of challenges. Digger, who had spent his entire life avoiding attention, suddenly found himself recognized everywhere he went. In grocery stores, at festivals, and airports, People approached him asking for photos, for stories, for a moment of his time. For someone who had built his life on staying out of the public eye, it was an overwhelming experience. It wasn't easy for him. But Digger, true to form, handled it with humility. He always reminded people that he was just a craftsman, a man who did what he loved. Fame had never been his goal. He was still the same person he had always been. Despite the success and the newfound recognition, things were about to take a dark turn. A storm was coming, one that no amount of fame, skill, or preparation could shield Digger from. And this time, the fight wasn't about moonshine. It wasn't about keeping secrets or making the perfect batch. This fight would be for his life. By the 13th season of Moonshiners, Digger had become a symbol of unshakable strength. He was the calm presence behind the chaos of the show, the voice of reason amid the madness. But then, something changed. People started noticing that he looked tired, slower, weaker. It wasn't long before rumors began to spread on social media. Viewers had come to see him as indestructible, but now there was something different. No one knew what was happening, and it left them wondering. And then, one day, Digger sat down with Mark and shared the truth. The diagnosis was chronic lymphocytic leukemia, or CLL, a slow-growing cancer of the blood and bone marrow. Digger spoke in his usual calm, matter-of-fact manner, as though he had accepted it long before he ever spoke the words aloud. There was no drama, no tears, just the quiet truth. He told Mark that it wasn't the end, but it ain't fun either. It was a rare moment of silence on television, one that spoke louder than words ever could. For the fans, it was a gut punch. The man who had fought so many battles in the dark was now facing the greatest battle of his life. It wasn't just a fight for survival, it was a fight with his own body. People from all corners of the globe sent him prayers and well wishes, offering their support. His story of struggle resonated with so many because it felt personal to them. The world had come to know Digger as a fighter, a man who always came out on top. But now, even the toughest mountain man had to confront his own vulnerability. CLL is a disease that doesn't go away easily. It's a slow burn, a gradual buildup that weakens the immune system, leaving the body vulnerable to illness. Most people with CLL live with it for years, undergoing regular tests and treatments, trying to manage the disease as it progresses. It's a fight that lasts a long time, one that demands patience and acceptance. The Discovery Channel had to decide how they would handle this new chapter in Digger's life. Would they sensationalize it for ratings? Would they turn his diagnosis into a tear-jerking storyline? Or would they honor the man, the craft, and the fight he was facing? The choice they made was one of respect. They didn't exploit his illness for drama. They treated it with care and kept the focus on Digger's strength rather than his struggle. Behind the scenes, the production team adjusted his schedule to make sure he had the time to rest when needed. His co-stars, people like Stephen Ray Tickle, Josh Owens, and Tim Smith, stepped up to support him. He wasn't treated like a patient. He was treated like family. Digger didn't let the illness define him. Instead, he found a way to live with it. He continued working, tweaking his stills, trying out new mash blends, and sharing laughs with Mark. The fire still burned, but now it was a little slower, a little steadier. Acceptance, not resistance, was what made him strong. He refused to let his illness become a tragedy. Instead, he used it to show the world that strength didn't just come from grit. It came from grace as well. There was something beautifully poignant about watching Digger tending to his copper still while, at the same time, battling a disease inside his body. The same care he put into his craft was now directed inward, toward himself. He was fighting an illness that couldn't be rushed, using the same patience and attention to detail that he used to perfect his moonshine. Digger's fire still burns in every story he's inspired. His legacy continues, passed down through every batch he's made, every lesson he's shared, and every heart he's touched. If you've enjoyed this journey, share and subscribe, and don't miss the next chapter of this incredible story. The spirit of Digger Mains will always live on,